Hi, Alan Stratton from Woodturning. For this video I decided to experiment with warping. I have a bunch of fresh apple. I thought might be an excellent candidate piece of wood for that. I found a piece that looked like it had some heartwood. It was big enough, and I kind of mounted it traversely in the chuck to see if I can get heartwood to cross through the middle and then see what kind of warping. Well, I got some good warping in that, but in the process the shrinkage rates between the heartwood in here and the sapwood appeared to be severe enough that it cracked severely on the bottom. For the underside here, for the foot, I wanted to just turn it all at once and not have to do any carving later. So I made this first and then put it onto my chuck. And well, if you can see here and here closely, there's staining here because of the reaction between the acid in the wood, the fresh wet wood, and the chuck. It seems to always leave a black stain. So after letting this dry a couple of days, the cracks appeared and I was disappointed. So experiment number one, can't scratch. So I found another piece of wood. This was thinner. And I did not mount it traversely. It's straight through the pith. And so I did the same process. I turned the bottom here first, and there's no staining here this time because I put some cellophane in there to shield it. But that made things a little bit less stable. But I went ahead and turned the tiny little top goblet part, and it is warping nicely. I'm not going to finish it because I like the feel of this fresh wood with the warping. It warps in weird little distinct ways. So, an experiment in two goblets. Let's turn them.
Off camera, I rough turned this green apple and cut a tenon on one end. Now into the chuck it goes. Since there is always some axis shift when remounting, the first task is to do a slight trim. In particular, my steady rest needs a smooth area to run on. The design of my steady rest allows me to mount the steady without dismounting the wood. This prevents more axis shift. With the steady ready, I can start the slight hollow on the top end. This hollow will become the base of my goblet. I start with a box scraper with pressure in line with the axis. Even then, with this soft, wet wood, there is a jump and I have to retighten the chuck. Then clean up again with a spindle gouge, then back to the box scraper to finish up with gentle cuts with the gouge. So this is now a mortise in the base. Switching chucks to a smaller chuck to fit the mortise, I am remounting with the base in the chuck. This time I have a thin sheet of plastic over the chuck jaws. While this should prevent black staining, it also makes the chuck hold more fragile. I will have to be careful. So I remount the steady rest, I hollow the end carefully with my spindle gouge and start on the exterior where I can reach. For more security, I now put a rubber stopper on my live center and bring it up to provide more pressure from the end. Then shape the exterior bowl. Fortunately, I can back off the live center to check thickness, which I do several times. With the bowl portion completed, I need to work down the stem. I have to remove the steady rest and rely solely on the live center. Then work an inch or two at a time down the stem. With enough room now on the stem, I alternate between the spindle gouge and my skew. The gouge is best at removing wood quickly. The skew is best for final smooth cuts. Working down the stem a little at a time keeps as much wood as possible to prevent whipping and bending. Finally, at the base, I have to be careful to not cut too far and ruin the mortise. When finished, I put the goblet into a controlled microclimate, that's a paper sack, to dry. It warps and distorts but does not crack. I will leave this not sanded and without a finish to preserve the feel of the wood. It is an interesting feel on the stem as well as the warped cup portion. Best of all, it survived. Please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe on my website, and tell your friends about my videos. I appreciate your comments and questions. Every week I add a new wood turning video to my website. Always, please wear your face shield anytime that lathe is running. I will see you again next week.